Well, welcome everybody to the July 14th, 2021 Mayfield Board of Education meeting. Mr. Snyder, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes, Mr. Finaro.
Here.
Ms. Grosek.
Here.
Mr. Hess.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Tressi.
Here. And long time coming, can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sounds a lot better than on Zoom or Teams, trying to do the Pledge of Allegiance in person. I'm going to, let's see here. I'm going to jump around a second here. I'm going to move down to public participation, the Board of Education. This is number 5, so if you're keeping score on your agendas, we're at number 5 right now. The Board of Education recognizes the value to the school governance of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on school matters and community interests. We did not receive anybody to add anything to the agenda, but if there's anybody here that wants to talk on a agenda item, please let us know. There being none, we'll close that out. So we'll move on to the President's announcements. I don't have much today. I'd like to welcome Dr. Barnes to our first, welcome again, to our first board meeting. I'm looking forward to reviewing your 100-day transition with the public. You provided it to us. We've talked about it in the past. It's exciting to have you here and get this going. And thrilled to be back in person, believe me. Sitting in front of a screen, I do it for work. I do it for this. To be back with people, I think it's a great thing to be able to see people and to be able to talk and socialize and just all the good things that come with it. So welcome everybody, and I'm going to let Dr. Barnes take over for his superintendent's announcements.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry, I'm going to get my water. Thank you.
Connected,
So I appreciate the board allowing me the opportunity to spend some time with you tonight, walking you through this 100-day transition and learning plan. I put this together because I felt that it was important to develop an entry plan that would be the genesis for my reacclimation to the Mayfield City Schools and the Mayfield greater community. And in doing so, the focus would be on building relationships, listening, learning, to determine short-term and long-term strategic priorities for ongoing continuous improvement. And so I put this together, and I've obviously given you a copy of this ahead of time, and I wanted to present it to you and then give you the opportunity to ask any questions that you might have pertaining to the transition plan. It is organized in part by 3 strategic goals. That is the vision, that is the why. And then there are objectives that are aligned with the goals, and that is the what. And then there are action steps that help us get to the end. And the goal will be, after 100 days, which will be October 8th, to provide a report and a reflection to the board on what was discovered in this effort, and then be able to share that out with the general school community and staff as well at that time. And so, okay, so goal number 1, which is really, really important, especially as a new superintendent transitioning into the district, transitioning again into the district. I've played many roles in the district, but this is different. And it's important that this is used to help guide our interaction over the next 100 days and beyond. First goal is to ensure effective future district governance through positive and productive board, superintendent, and treasurer relations. That is the why. The objectives, as you see up there, and I'll read these to you even though you've had it since the other day, is to establish the board, treasurer, and superintendent as a cohesive governing group. To build a positive, productive, and trusting working relationship with board members as individuals. We've already began that work. I've met with several of you already and have meetings to come. Determine short-term academic, fiscal, and organizational priorities, again, along with the treasurer and the board, and determine short-term legislative and policy priorities. Number 4 is important because while we like to maintain local control, and we do, everything that we do, in a lot of cases, I should say, we're reacting to legislative and policy issues in Columbus and at the federal level. So we definitely want to be on the same page with that, the most recent being the Fair School Funding Plan that was just written into the governor's budget for the next 2 years. Seem to be. The action steps as it relates to Goal 1 is to meet with the board president and discuss a framework, format, and agenda for board superintendent communications and working relationship, preferably to take place before the official start of the job. Initially, my start date was August 1st. I'm very appreciative to this Board of Education for giving me the opportunity to accelerate that start to July 1, especially considering opening day, for the most part, is 15 days after August 1st. That would have been really tough to gather all of this information leading into the 21-22 school year. Action step number 2, meet with the treasurer and discuss a working relationship, schedule regular meetings during the week of the 100-day plan, each week of the 100-day plan, and establish a strong relationship built on mutual trust and respect. Most people don't know that the board hires 2 employees directly, the superintendent and the treasurer. The treasurer does not report to the superintendent. So it's important to build that relationship. Although I've known Mr. Snyder for many, many years, it has been in different capacities as I've worked throughout the organization. This is different. So not taking anything for granted, it's important that we make time as an intentional priority to nurture that relationship. Number 3, schedule and conduct meetings to establish operating norms and expectations of the board, treasurer, and the superintendent team. And at the end, board, if you have any questions, please stop me and ask. Action step 4, establish regular meetings, times, protocols for the board president for reviewing board agendas, policies, and district developments and news. Schedule meetings with the board members to gain individual perspectives. Your board as a whole, each of you as elected officials bring a perspective. I want to know that. Establish regular communication systems with the Board of Education and schedule a board work session during the summer months to facilitate alignment, vision, mission, and a focus moving forward. Goal 2, establish public trust and confidence through open, honest communication and positive relationship amongst stakeholder groups. You gonna drive for me?
I'll drive for you.
Thank you.
It's part of our 100-day plan.
He's working already.
There you go.
There are a number of objectives aligned to this goal. Number 1, increase personal knowledge of the Mayfield school community, including culture, traditions, and values. It's, again, not wanting to take it for granted. I spent a total of 21 years here in the past, but again, in various capacities. Things have changed, cultures, traditions, values. I want to know those. And I can discover that by interacting with stakeholder groups. 2, validate the community service and faith-based community as a viable and reliable partner. Establish a positive working relationship with civic leaders, members of the business community, and service support organizations. Establish the role of each employee association as advisors to the superintendent. Establish regular monthly meetings with the presidents of the associations to facilitate an active partnership grounded in mutual respect. 6, Discover the existing student advisory group and consider expansion. Student voice is important. Prior to me leaving to go across town, the student advisory group was in place. Their voice is very, very important in determining our focus and priorities for both short-term and long-term moving forward. We will continue that, and we will look at opportunities to expand that as well. Engage the community as a whole with targeted meetings and listen and learn tours. I'll be working with Mrs. Euler to establish coffee talks and listening tours across the community to give stakeholders an opportunity to share their thoughts and perspectives in terms of what they want and desire for their students in this school district. We'll also do the same thing at each of the buildings across the district. 9, facilitate understanding and the widespread ownership of the district's vision and mission and purpose as an organization dedicated to providing the very, very best for every student every day. And 10, create a 12-month communication calendar that we've already started that will really help us maintain our outreach to all stakeholder groups. Action steps, identify selected representatives, community business leaders, elected officials, foundation leaders, etc. Identify community faith-based organizations and their respective professional affiliations with the school system and nurture those. Meet with foundations, nonprofit, philanthropic organizations to chart paths for future collaborative opportunities and efforts throughout the school district, and attend periodic meetings with key community leaders to promote the Mayfield brand and our students and our staff. 5, determine routines, formats, and meeting frequencies for each employee association. Currently, we have collaborative structures in place. We want to take advantage of that. We want to see if those still work, if we need to tweak those and do something differently. 6, assess all existing forms of communications to various stakeholder groups that include our parent groups, booster groups, etc. Engage existing partners to support communications work. Attend school and community events in order to build relationships with students and community members. Those are the action steps related to goal number 2, which is engagement. And finally, goal number 3, as a part of an audit, a personal audit, I intend to review district goals, programs, financial reports, initiatives within the district for alignment with stated priorities and study current diversity, equity, inclusivity efforts at the district level. Objective 1, review the district goals, programs, and initiatives to assess effectiveness through interviews with various stakeholder groups and review that data. Review student achievement and growth data with the Assistant Superintendent, Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Director of Pupil Services. Review the current diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, if there are any that exist at the moment. Meet with principals by building to determine their priorities. Meet with departmental leaders at their particular department to determine departmental priorities. And meet with the administrative team and establish group norms and expectations for communication. Action steps. Review the critical documents, including board policies, organizational charts, employee handbooks, policy and procedure manuals, vision documents, and student achievement growth data by school. Review diversity, equity, and inclusion plans if they exist. And schedule a full-day work session with the administrative team in the summer. That has already been scheduled in order to plan for the year and establish group norms and lines of communication. And 4 and 5, establish a schedule to meet with key central office administrators. That is ongoing, especially considering the board was gracious enough to allow me to start earlier. And 5, meet with the district senior level administrators to assess the district and departmental capacity for effectiveness and efficiency of service and function in those particular areas. Again, the goal will be, when we mark the 100th day, which will be October 8th, to share the discoveries with the board, make those also available for staff and the community as a part of my accountability for adhering to these 3 goals, objectives, and action steps, and determine what our short-term and long-term priorities are moving forward. A lot of this work will be continuous beyond the 100 days, but again, I felt that it was important coming in, not taking anything for granted, that I had an entry plan to assist me as the new superintendent to discover what our strategic priorities could be to build relationships, to listen, and to learn. And with that, are there any, thank you, sir.
Yep.
And it's his birthday too, and he's up here assisting.
Did we mention that it was his birthday?
Are there any questions?
Any questions? Mike, Dr. Barnes, we joked today that, this is the 86-day plan, right? Because it started already. But, it's more than the 100-day plan, because you and I have been talking since you were announced as our superintendent. We've been talking every 2 weeks on the phone. We had that communication already going. So I like that you put this in a 100-day plan, but I want people to know you've been working at this before this, and we've been talking about it. And you started your meetings already with the board, which I appreciate. And I think the types of organizations we have in this district, the parent groups we have in here, with the businesses that we have in here. So you're going to be very successful, I think, moving forward with this plan, discussing what you want to do and getting some feedback from them. So I look forward to seeing the results after the 100 days. I think it's going to be great. Do we have this on the website?
It will be up after
After
tonight's
tonight's
meeting.
meeting? Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Any questions? Comments? Nope.
Excellent.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we'll move on now to, this thing's not moving, there we go. Board member committee reports. I think Ms. Grosek, you had something tonight?
I do, and actually, perfect dovetail, thank you so much,
job.
because your goal 3, action step 1, talking about different manuals and whatnot, in a parallel, the board has always had I shouldn't say always, we created a board notebook back 2012, 2013, which talks about the board's goals and objective to keep us moving and moving forward. So they are goals and objectives that keep us fresh and keep our commitment to the public. When I was talking to Mr. Snyder earlier today, we had talked about not having a 3-ring binder anymore, but getting it in an electronic format and making sure that it's part of the website and whatnot. And there's several things in this book that certainly need to be updated. To that end, Mr. Snyder and I are going to be working together, as he is also the board secretary, and wanted to invite another board member to work with us, because we can only have 2 board members work on a committee, so that there's not a majority. So Mr. Teresi would love to do that. Awesome. So I'll get together with you guys and we'll figure out a timing to get the ball rolling, because I'd like to get this moving along as quickly as possible.
Perfect. I appreciate you taking that over and getting it electronic.
Yes. I will say
Worry
back,
about that notebook, where it goes.
Yeah.
back in the day, we went with a 3-ring binder because we wanted to make sure it was fluid. There are districts, very few actually, who put together a notebook of who they are and what they are. But when they do, they bind it, and things change. So electronically, it will be that much better, that much faster, and everybody will have access to it.
Thank you for taking that on. And Mr. Teresi and Mr. Snyder, thank you for helping out with that. Any other committee reports? I have one for the Mayfield Schools Foundation. The golf outing is August 4th, 12 o'clock, correct?
That's correct.
At Stonewater?
12 o'clock is the start time for the
Start
golf.
time.
11
Be there
o'clock, I
early.
believe, is the lunch. I will be there.
So it's at Stonewater, MayfieldSchoolFoundation.org. For flags, foursomes, sponsorships, looking for any donations to that organization, which helps support the Mayfield schools in many different ways. It's very valuable for us. So if anybody can attend that or participate with some donations, we'd appreciate that. All right. With that, we're moving to our number 7, our superintendent's consent agenda. I have items A through P, and tonight I'm not going to take over taking the motion, so we'll go back to our old school ways. Somebody make the motion, and then we'll second it. So I need a motion for items A through P.
So moved. Second.
So bear with me for the audience, for the benefit of the audience, or to clarify, this is not synced with my computer, so therefore I cannot demonstrate the motion, second, roll call, and move this. So I'm sorry, it's kind of a static. It's our first time back, so we're having technical difficulties. So just know that if you're looking at that, yeah, you'll have to follow along old school looking at paper. So my apologies in advance. I'm an accountant, not a techie. So. Though I pretend in play that I am.
So you got that down?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Motion and second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Legan, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I'm so excited to finally share with everyone, thank you for the approval, that Deanna Elsing will be the next assistant principal for student affairs at Mayfield High School. People keep asking, who this mystery person is, and honestly, when I met, throughout this entire process, meeting with Deanna, she is all about kids. She currently serving as the Northern Career Institute principal over at Willoughby Eastlake, where she oversees 5 of their career technical programs, but she also developed their Bridge to Success and their Success Academy, which is a program that really supports at-risk youth. And when you talk to her, you feel the sense of pride in this development of the program, where she has reached out to so many different businesses to help the students in this program not only support their academic progress, but also their career aspirations and developing those skills. But throughout the interview, there's always one defining moment, where I know that this is the right person. And I have in my back pocket, she handed me some seeds, some flower seeds. And it was about spreading seeds of kindness and love. And, when she talked about that, I knew that it supports everything that we believe at Mayfield, and it's every student every day. And I know that she is the perfect person for this position. And I'm excited for her husband Grant, for her son Grant, and for her son Eli to be a part of the Mayfield family. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any comments, Mrs. Elsing? Are you good? I'd like to put you on the spot.
I am incredibly excited to be part of the Mayfield community. I'm so excited to be part of a high school community, the high school team, and to wear green and to be a Wildcat. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well, welcome. You're going to an awesome, award-winning high school, and we look forward to you being part of that. Our next item is our, other superintendent's business. We have item A, which is addendum number 1, classified supplementals. I'll need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
My screen at home is a lot bigger than this. I'm having some issues with this. But next item is number 9, Treasurer's Report. Financial statements for June 30th. I need a motion.
So moved. Second.
Just simply for the sake of the audience, the board had a special meeting on June 30th where we walked through the financial, end-of-year financials. They approved those. These are just simply the statements that relate to the June 30th timeline, which is the end of our fiscal year. So just a point of clarification.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
The final item in that category is B, financial transactions. We need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Hess. This is just simply for the sake of, again, the audience. This is replacing or returning end-of-year advances to cover end-of-year deficits related largely to federal programs that are on an expense reimbursement basis. And that's just essentially an audit standard. So we just had to comply with that.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Finaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
In other treasurer's business, we have item A, the minutes from our special board meeting of June 8th, 2021, the regular board meeting of June 23rd, 2021, and the special meeting of June 28th, 2021. I'll need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Item B, Ohio Schools Council Safety Program and the Lake Erie Educational Media Consortium membership fees for 2021-2022 school year. Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Just simply like to identify that this is an annual affiliation or membership fee with the Ohio Schools Council. And one part of this is to provide access to their safety programs for each of our building, which a lot of school districts do also participate in, and the other is to connect to their online media center platform for our local media centers. So again, this is just an annual approval, membership approval.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
And Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Our next item is the PSI Affiliates, Inc. agreements for 2021-2022 school year.
So moved. Second.
Could explain this, but
Okay,
again.
I was waiting for you to explain this one too. But it's Nurses for Gilmore and
Correct.
St.
We
Patrick's.
are a fiscal agent for state resources for non-public entities that are within our school district, St. Pascal, St. Francis, and Gilmore, and we have a fiduciary responsibility to approve these contracts on their behalf, which is what is recommended this evening.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
And Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Item D, the McKeon Education Group, Inc. agreement for 2021-2022 school year. We need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Let me switch this to Mr. Hess, Ms. Grosek. This is, I'll say ditto, same as the last resolution for our non-publics.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
And Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Item E, the next step educational services for 2021-2022 school year. We'll need a motion.
So moved.
Second. Third.
Hughes. Same as the last two for the reason why.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Item F, education alternative service agreement for the 2021-2022 school year. I'll need a motion, please.
So moved. Second.
This is slightly different. This is actually an affiliation agreement for the district for us to have access to education alternatives for those students that require an outplacement option that we cannot necessarily handle internally. Typically, it's related to an IEP or those that are part of the special education environment.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
And Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Item G, the designation of eligible depositories of active and interim funds. We'll need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
And Mr. Hess.
Yes.
And the final item, the 2021-2022 cell phone stipends. A
So
motion.
moved.
Second.
Give me 1 second. My computer is not.
Faster than the computer.
Yeah, actually. You guys are a little faster, so let me, and it's frozen, so I'm going to have to do this old school because this thing is not connecting at all to the, I lost my connection. So the motion was by, I'm sorry. Mr. Teresi, thank you. Seconded.
I'm the second.
Thank you.
Wasn't it? No?
You are now.
Okay, sorry.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Under other board business, we have item A, walk-in addendum settlement agreement with Mayfield Education Association. We need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Go by hand?
Yeah.
All right, I'll make sure.
That's why, yeah.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Teresi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
Item B is a walk-in addendum and memorandum of understanding with the food service managers. We need a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call?
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
And then we have a walk-in addendum with a memorandum of understanding with the food service employees. We need a motion.
So moved.
Second? Third?
Okay, so that was seconded by
Ms.
Mr.
Grosek.
Ms. Grosek, thank you.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Hughes.
Yes.
Mr. Tressi.
Yes.
Mr. Fenaro.
Yes.
Ms. Grosek.
Yes.
Mr. Hess.
Yes.
And finally, we have in memoriam, Diane Axel passed away on June 23rd, 2021, at the age of 66 years. Ms. Axel will be fondly remembered by many in the Mayfield City School District, where she served as a school psychologist for 15 years, until her retirement in 2020. Condolences are extended to the family of Diane Axel. At this time, it is recommended that the Mayfield Board of Education convene to an executive session per ORC 121.22 G1 to consider the compensation of public employee. We will hold this down here, so we will ask that if everybody has an opportunity to exit, we were going to go into executive session. After that, we will come back in for a vote on one thing, and then we will adjourn the public meeting at that point. Thank you.